Hello everyone, it's TK Friday. Today I'm working with the TK8 multi-mask panel and linear light. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Along with the new TK8 multi-mask panel comes some really cool new features, and I'm going to show you one of those today. I'll be working with the new paint color output mode. It sends a blank layer out with a selection that you've created in the TK8 multi-mask panel. And you'll be able to dodge and burn with color through that selection or alter colors and things of that nature. It's really an amazing thing that you can do, and I'm so excited to show it to you today. But first I want to start out in Lightroom and work with a linear profile, make some basic adjustments, and then I'll send this into Photoshop and we will get started with the TK8 multi-mask panel. Here in Lightroom, you're seeing this image in the raw format, no adjustments whatsoever. It has the Adobe Color profile on it, but check this out when I switch this over to the linear profile for my camera. It's a EOS 5D Mark II, so let me go ahead and click this. But look how the image just evens out with that linear profile. If you haven't got a linear profile yet, I'm going to leave the link in the description below where you can go to Tony Kuiper's webpage and pick up the free linear profile for your camera. And if Tony doesn't have your profile, you can request him to make one for your camera. The linear profile is just a really great starting point for your raw editing. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, my first step for me is to click auto here. And when I click auto, already it looks really great, and I find I get much better results when I click auto and use a linear profile. It's really nice. So the next thing I want to do is set up my white and black point, and let me go to whites and just bump this up to the right just a little bit, and I'm clipping my blacks just a tiny little bit. I'm just going to fix that right there. Now I think the image needs a little more contrast. I think the exposure is pretty good. Let's just give it a little bit more contrast. Somewhere around there. Maybe I'll open the shadows up a little bit now. Auto is a good starting point, by the way. And then the vibrance is set at 20 and the saturation is at 7. Now it looks a little weak in color, so I'm going to go ahead and bump up the vibrance a little bit. And here's a little tip for you. If you ever have trouble setting your white balance, if you're not sure how to set your white balance properly, I think this will be a really good tip for you. Take your saturation and really bump it up to the right. You know, oversaturate your image. And that way you can take a look and see how the white balance actually looks. And you can see it looks a little bit like on the warm side. Granted, we have some blue in the water here, but don't worry about that because I'll take care of that later and I'll show you how I do that. But it looks a little bit overall on the warm side and maybe a little bit green. So what I'll do is take my temperature and cool it down just a little bit. You know, maybe somewhere right around in there. And then I'll take my tint and move it into magenta till it looks right. And again, don't worry about that blue water, but I think maybe right about there looks pretty good. And now I can go ahead and take my saturation and pull it back. And I'm thinking maybe right around there looks pretty good right there. Now, obviously I have this blue water here, but I can take care of that, and I'll just go to HSL and I'll just take the blue under saturation and just ease this back to the left. And I'm not going to take it the whole way out because a little bit of that blue in there looks kind of nice. And then I'll go down to my lens corrections and just make sure I have my remove chromatic aberrations checked on and my enable profile corrections on. In terms of detail, I'm going to just do the basic sharpening in Lightroom. It looks good. I use Sharpen AI or Denoise AI, but for sake of time in this video, I'm going to forgo that. And as far as noise reduction, I'm not going to use any noise reduction because I shot this at ISO 50 to slow this water down, so I don't really need noise reduction on this image. Let's take a look at where I started from. So we started from here, and now we end up here. And I like it, so now I'm going to go ahead and send this into Photoshop and work on it further. I'll just right-click on the image, go to Edit in Photoshop 2021, and we shall get started. The first thing I do is just check the overall image out and see what I think it really needs. Now, to me right now, the first thing that really sticks out like a sore thumb to me are these rocks down here. They seem light and my eye is drawn to them. So I need to take care of that. So I'm going to use a zone mask to isolate those rocks. I'm going to go ahead and click a color on the rock, like say right in here, and click OK. And now let's go ahead and tighten up that selection by taking the slider, moving it to the left, so I can just get those rocks isolated really well. Maybe right around there, and let's lighten them up a bit, a good bit here. And maybe a little bit more, somewhere right around there. Now we're going to output this to a linear light blank pixel layer, and the fill will be set to 15%. And we'll be painting through a selection. I'll just click this icon, and when I do, the color picker comes up. Now I have to choose a color. So what I want to do is sample some of the darker tones of this rock on the shadow side of the rock, maybe right around here. Click this, and this is the color it is chosen. I'm going to give it a little more saturation by just coming over here to the right a little bit, maybe right around in here, and click OK. And now notice that I have this blank pixel layer that says paint color. You can see that I have a selection by my selection indicators, and I'm in the linear light blend mode with a fill of 15%, which we can come and alter that later, and I'll show you. But what I need to do now is paint, and there's my paint swatch with the color I've selected. And I'm painting through a selection. Now I'm painting with about 20% opacity so I can build this up slowly. Resize my brush accordingly here, and now I can start to paint. You know what? I think I'm going to bump that up. That's really light. I'm going to go to 50% and paint on here. And just build this up. Just darkening these rocks, painting with that color, actually burning with this color right here. But see how these rocks are getting darker? I'm just going to work on this one for a while till I get it the way I like it. And I continue to add 50% every time I paint over it. Okay, let's see. Here's the before. And here's the after. So pretty nice. Now let me go to this other rock over here, and let's just paint on it as well. Hit it a few times here. Maybe one more time. Hit this a couple times here. And I think that looks good. And then this little sandbar right here, I think I'll go across it. But before I do that, let me go to this rock here. Let me get it a couple times, and this area back in here once. Okay, and now let's do the sandbar right here. Go over it. Now I'm going to go to 20% and hit it one more time. Okay, so let's take a look. Here is the before, and here is the after. So now your eye is not drawn to these rocks as much. It's more going into the rest of the frame here, but there's more work to do. We are not done yet. Now let's turn our attention to the fill adjustment. It's at 15%. If we feel we need to add more color to those rocks, just drag this to the right. And I find that you can go up to about 20% without getting weird looks. See, if you keep going hard, it's going to look terrible. But anywhere between, I don't know, you can go under 15% if you went too far, or you can go over 15%. And in this case, I might take this up to about 18%. No, you know what? Let's try 20. I find once you start getting around 20, I wouldn't go too far over that, but you can experiment with it. Now here is the before, and here is the after. So that looks much better. And don't forget, you have the opacity here as well. You can also adjust it with this as well. But if you need more of that color, you definitely need to hit it with the fill to the right. It looks like I may have overshot the rock here a little bit on the edge, so I'm going to get a smaller brush. Actually, I'm going to get my eraser tool, E for the eraser tool, make it smaller. And I'm still painting through that selection, and I'm just going to paint off some of the overshoot that I've got here. I think I probably had too big of a brush when I was painting over here, and I just spilt over the top there just a wee bit. Here's the before, and here is the after. So that looks better. Hey, by the way, you see this icon right here? If I hold my Option key down, you can see this button opens the Edit Selection interface. So this is really cool. If I click this, what you'll notice, we'll be able to see the actual selection itself. Okay? And then you can come here and further alter it if you want to. But that's a nice little tip. If you just want to see what your selection looks like, if you forgot and you wanted to just check it out, you can click that and then click this icon right here, and that reloads your selection right back up. That's a little tip for you. The next thing I'm noticing is these rocks right in this area look different than these rocks. So there's a little bit of a bluish tint, purplish tint over here compared to over here. So I'd like to bring some of this color in here over to here. These look more like midtones to me, so let's go ahead this time and grab a midtones mask. So let's click this luminosity mask icon, and let's grab, let's try midtones 1. Little too narrow, let's try midtones 2. I think that's going to be good. Now I think we need to alter it a bit. And to do that, we're going to use a levels adjustment. So click on this icon right here. And what I need to do is let's lighten up that selection by taking the highlight slider and bumping it to the left. Let's lighten that whole area up. Now we can kind of narrow that down a little bit by moving this to the right. Let's try somewhere in here. Let's lighten it up a little bit more. Narrow it down just a wee bit more. We don't want to lose any texture here, and I think that's going to be good. Now all we need to do is output this to a linear light blank pixel layer, and we'll be painting through a selection. Now we have to choose a color that we want to use. And I think I'm going to use one of these colors over in here, like right around here. I think that should be good. Let's give it a little bit more saturation. Now, I'm going to stay right around where it is because I'm not dodging or burning. I just want to alter the color. So let's give it some more saturation. I'll be painting with, I'm not sure what the opacity will be here. Maybe we'll start at 50% maybe, but I'm going to pick this color right here and click OK. And now we have our blank layer with a linear light blend mode at 15%. So now we can start painting. I have a nice soft edge brush and I'm painting at 50%, so let's just go over these mid-tone areas in here. Right up in here, up here, over here, here a little bit, and right there. Maybe a little bit more over here. So let's take a look. Here is the before, and here is the after. But you see how that just kind of brings the same color from this side over to this side. And we could paint a little bit more. I'll over-exaggerate it just so you can see it. Okay, just here and here. Maybe a little bit here and here. A little bit more here and here. So let's take a look. Here's the before, and here is the after. So that's a little more over-exaggerated so you can really see it. And if I felt I was too strong, which I am, really, I would need to bring I'm just going to take the opacity back a little bit. And probably, right around like 73%, here is the before and here is the after. But that just starts to bring some balance back into the image, which really helps here. All thanks to that linear light blend mode. Now, if we notice this area right in here, some of these warm tones, I'd like to bring some of these warm tones into this whole area here just to balance this area out. See, because we have a lot of warm tones up here and down here. Let's warm this section up a little bit. This time I think I'll use a zone mask. And let's pick these tones right in here. I'm going to click right there and click OK. And now let's narrow that selection down. I don't want to go too much, but again, I want to get all this area right in here. Let's lighten it up a good bit. And let's click the linear light output here. And now let's pick a color. Let's pick one of these warm colors up in here. And I want to darken that down a little bit. So I'm in this area. I want to get a little more saturation. Maybe right here. Let's try that. Click OK. Now I'm painting through a selection, remember, and I have a nice soft brush. I have 50% opacity still, and I just want to apply that color over this area in here, just to warm this whole section down. I'm going to keep hitting it till it looks right to me. So I'm painting away here. Just to warm it up a little bit. Back there. I think that looks good. Let's take a look. Here is the before and here's the after. So that really, see how that just really sets that in there really nice. It looks a lot more natural. Let's see if we add a little bit more fill here, if we want to add more color here. Now I think it was pretty good where it was. I'm going to leave it. There's 14. Let's see. Here's the before and here's the after. I think that looks good, and I really like that. I think that really helps. And now as I study the image, I feel this area in here just needs a little bit of warmth. I think I'll use another midtones mask to get that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to jump right to midtones 2. Again, I'm going to use my levels adjustment here. Let's lighten up that entire area. Let's tighten it up a bit, just a little bit. And lighten it up a little bit more. And I think maybe that should do the trick. Now let's do linear light again. And now let's find a color. I think I'm going to sample some of these colors up in here. Okay. And I'm just going to give it more saturation. Now I'm just altering color. I'm not dodging or burning. So I'm going to give it more saturation. I'm going to go right here, click OK. And now with my big soft brush, I'm going to go ahead at 50%. I'll start with 50% and paint. Yeah, just paint that 50% in here over this entire area. And just add some of that warmth in here. Come the whole way up to the waterfall. Let's give it one more little hit here and here. That looks good. Maybe here one time, over here. I'm going to undo that one. I didn't like that one. So I'm just going to hit my back arrow here. Okay, so let's take a look. Here is the before and here is the after. Again, the before and the after. I think that's a nice balance. Let's give it a little bit more fill just to see. Yeah, I might just give it a slight bit more fill. Here is the before and here is the after. So I like it. I might just pull this back to 20%. Before and after. You know, you really got to study these things, and sometimes it takes a little bit of thought to really make sure you got this right. And I think I'm happy with that. Now here's another good little tip for you. Sometimes what you need to do is step away from your image for a little bit. You know, maybe take a little 5-10 minute break, walk away, and then come back and look at it again. And when you come back, you might have fresh eyes to say, oh man, I really screwed that up. I have way too much saturation there. So sometimes walk away and then come back. It really helps. Let's see how we're doing here. I'm going to option click or alt click the background layer. Here's how we started. So take a look at the image, see how light these rocks are, and over here. It's not bad, but it's just the lighting is just kind of off a little bit, and our eye is not going to the waterfall the way it needs to. Now when I option click this, we can see the changes we've made. And now our eye goes right to the waterfall. The image is nicely balanced out here with the color and the lighting. And that linear light blend mode is really effective. You got to give this a try. I have one more thing to do, and that is this area, this ledge under here, under the waterfall. I just want to lighten that up a little bit, and I'm going to see if the linear light blend mode will help us to do that. I think I'll use another zone mask to select this area here. But take a note here. I want to point something out. Whenever you see a selection here, whenever you click any of these icons, that selection goes away. So you don't have to worry about, like resetting your selection each time. Just go ahead and click the next thing you want to do. So in my case, I want a zone mask. So I'm going to click the zone icon and click one of these darker colors down here and click OK. And now what I'll do is just narrow that selection to get right under there. I'll narrow it a good bit here. Yeah. Something like that, and let's lighten it up. We'll lighten that up, and now we'll click the linear light again, and let's find a color here. Now actually that color that it's picked is good, so I just want to lighten it. So let's come straight up into the lighter zones here. And this is the midpoint here, so you need to be higher than the midpoint. So I'm going to come up right around in here about 25% in this area right here and keep the same amount of saturation. So right here and click OK. And now let me start out with, let me do 20%. And with a nice big brush here, let's go ahead and paint some of that light up in here with that color. Like that. And let's come over here as well. Paint that in over here. Let's take a look. Here is the before and here is the after. So that just lightens that up a little bit. And what I might do is just take my opacity and pull back on my opacity a little bit. I don't want it quite as light. And how about 43%? Here's the before and here's the after. So just lighten it up a little bit, just a little bit of a finesse there. Again, we started out looking like this and we end up looking like this. And what a great improvement. And that is the new paint color output on the TK8 panel. You got to give it a try. We did all these corrections today utilizing the new paint color mode in the TK8 multi-mask panel. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial utilizing the paint color mode in the TK8 multi-mask panel. This is a new feature, as I said. All my adjustments were done with that paint color mode today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new feature in the TK8 multi-mask panel. Please leave comments and questions in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the tutorial today, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon, and every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I'll see you all right here next time, but until then, happy editing.